Now, this is one of the most gorgeous garlic breads that you'll ever try. This isn't like one of those loaves where you stick a bit of butter and garlic in and everybody wants just to eat small bits of it. Some of it's a bit greasy, some of it's a bit tasteless. This is the sort of garlic bread which you're going to devour whilst hot and finish it to the very end like a tin of Pringles. I first had these garlic breadsticks probably 20 years ago, so a big shout out to Roccos Pizzas in Hythe. I'll leave a link to their site down below because they've been making this for over 20 years, and I'm going to share with you a recipe now so that you can make them at home and enjoy some of the best garlic bread in the world. Come on, let's get and make it. Now I've got 450 grams, that's around about a pound of strong bread flour. Now feel free to do this in a mixing bowl, but I'm just going to make a little well in the center, into which I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of instant yeast and a teaspoon of salt, but I'm going to keep that away from the yeast. Now I've got 1 cup of warm water, which I'm just going to start to pour into the center. And as I do so, I'm just going to draw the flour in. Now, as that starts to draw together into a paste like that, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in. Again, using my fork, I'm just going to draw that in together. Then I'm going to pull the batter off the fork and start to use my fingers to pull this up into a dough. So we've got this very loose, raggy dough at the moment. What we're going to start doing is stretching out. So use the heel of your hand, fold it back, turn it, and we're just going to do this for about 10 minutes until we've incorporated all this loose flour on the table and we've got a nice silky dough. So you can see now after 10 minutes of kneading, this is becoming beautiful and silky, and we've developed this lovely gluten tension. The dough should spring back like that. I'm going to divide this up into 2 equal pieces. Then I have a couple of bowls here. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in, take one of my pieces of dough and just coat it over. I'm going to cover them over with plastic wrap to trap all the moisture in. Then I'll find somewhere in the house that's not too cold. We're going to leave these for up to an hour until they've doubled in size. Now, whilst the dough rises, I'm going to mix up my seasoning, and by mixing it up in a bowl first, we get a nice even distribution. I've got about half a cup of lovely grated Parmigiano cheese. Now, this is garlic powder. It's very strong, so I'm going to put about 1/4 teaspoon in there. To season this, I've got some Himalayan rock salt. Now, I'm going to take about half a teaspoon, pop it in there as well. And this is completely optional, and I don't always put it in, but I'm going to take some oregano, a little dried oregano, and sprinkle that in there, a couple of pinches, and mix that through and get a nice even distribution. That smells absolutely delicious. The dough has risen beautifully. I'm going to take a little bit of semolina flour, sprinkle it over my counter, then gently, I don't want to knock all the air out of this, I'm going to get my dough out, lay it down on the counter. Now here my method changes from when I make pizza dough, where I'll stretch out the dough. I don't want to stretch it because that will give me uneven thickness, and I want a nice even thickness on this. So I have a rolling pin. I'm just going to coat it in a little flour. I'm just going to knock a little of the air out of our dough, and we're just going to roll it out, give it a 1/4 turn, and then roll it in the other direction. Again, we keep turning this. Now, a really important thing is to not roll past the edge here. I don't want to pinch this edge of the dough thin. So we just keep turning and roll, stop short of the edge. And we're going to keep turning this until we get something around about maybe 12, 14 inches in diameter. And you'll see, because I'm not pinching to the edge, we've got a lovely even thickness to our dough. Don't be tempted to push too hard either. We want a nice, even, constant thickness across the dough. Probably around about 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit over. Now gently get your hands underneath the dough and lift it up onto a baking tray. And I'm putting it onto baking paper for a reason which you'll see in a moment. Now I'm just going to let that relax on the tray for a while whilst I get on and prepare the other garlic bread. Now we'll take our first pizza base, and I'm just going to put about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of olive oil on there. I'm going to take a brush, and we want to completely coat the surface of this bread right the way to the edge. Then we're going to take that pre-mixed seasoning, and I want to just sprinkle it evenly over the surface of the garlic bread. It doesn't need to be too thick. And then I'm going to cut some finger strips out of the bread. Now the only reason I put the baking paper on here really was to protect the surface of my baking tray. So I'm using a pizza wheel, cutting probably about inch fingers. Now I'm going to prepare the second one of these, and then we're going to bake them in a hot oven. That's 220 degrees Celsius, 430 Fahrenheit, and they're going to take around about 10 to 12 minutes, and they should puff up beautifully. Now there they are. You don't want to over bake these. And the house smells absolutely gorgeous. Now, if you like, whilst it's still hot, you can actually take your pizza cutter and just cut these in half. But look at that. And that's why I stand by, this is the best pizza bread in the world, because the smell in here, and I know every last bit of this is going to be devoured before it's had time to cool down. So if you've enjoyed this video and you decide to make it, let me know in the comments what you think. Share the love, give this a thumbs up. I have to try this before I dribble all over the place. Here goes. Oh. Well, I think you know what I think about it. It is so good. Give this a try at home. Be good, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.